If you are lucky, you have the chance to sit down with a person you consider to be your hero. Today on In Depth with Konyka Dunson, I am sitting down with a winner of the Nobel Peace Prize, Betty Williams. In 1976, she won the Nobel Peace Prize for her work to bring peace to Northern Ireland. And this was no small task. As a woman who just got up and decided enough was enough after witnessing the murder of 3 children, she waded into violent territory and she went into history, showing that one person can bring peace, one person can make a change, one person can mobilize the spirit in many people who feel that peace is possible. For people who don't know, I just want you to talk about what moved you first to do this work for peace in Northern Ireland. What pushed you inside?
That's a question I've asked myself a million times, but the catalyst to it really was, I'd seen an awful lot of people killed and injured, and I'd lost 2 of my own family, 2 first cousins that were murdered in the war. And then one day I was out shopping and I witnessed the death of 3 children. Provisional IRA had opened up on a British Army foot patrol. The British Army foot patrol returned fire, killing the driver of the IRA car. And it careened off the pavement and slammed into a mother and her children. And that for me was the straw that broke the camel's back, because I had children of my own. And I just didn't want anybody taking my babies away from me for the insanity of Protestant and Catholic, and it's just absolutely insane. But the Maguire children, that was the catalyst that did it. I remember going home, and I remember my sister making me a cup of tea, and I don't remember anything for about 4 hours after that. And my next memory was I was standing in my garage and I was screaming. Now, a psychiatrist friend of mine told me since I brought myself out of shock by doing that, but those hours have never come back. I don't remember what happened in those hours.
4 hours.
I have still no clue what happened. But I remember going back into the house and my son was sitting doing his homework. And I said, give me that pad that he was writing on. And it was anger then set in. It was a burning anger. I mean, I still feel that anger. At the death of children, and I wound up into what was supposed to be provisional IRA territory, and I started banging on doors and saying to the women, we can't live like this any longer. Because you would go shopping in Northern Ireland, you know, I'd be in the grocery store and I'd hear women talking, you know, and I'd say, wasn't that awful what happened last night? But always in a whispered monotone, you know, always afraid that somebody was going to overhear what they were saying and maybe their family would be in danger. I just couldn't sit any longer under those circumstances and live like that anymore. And when I voiced it, who was it who said nothing is as strong as an idea whose time has come? Somebody a lot cleverer than me anyway. And that's exactly what happened. The women had just had enough. It's always the women and children. Always the women and children who pick up the pieces and who live through the horrors. If they live through it, you know. And you know, the women of Northern Ireland just didn't have a voice. So we became a loving and wonderful voice. I called a rally outside, the children were killed outside a Catholic church, which was even worse, you know, it was just right at the gates of the church. And I asked, then a media person called me and said, would I go on television? And I'd never done television or media in my life before. The night before, they'd gone to press with the fact that the women of Andersonstown, which is where I lived, had within, you know, until 3 o'clock in the morning, from about 4 in the afternoon, we had collected 6,000 signatures for peace. And the first door I knocked on, I mean, some of this is, it's so crazy, it doesn't even make sense to me. I remember banging on the lady's door and she came out and I said, sign this, you know, I was yelling at the woman. And she said, what is it? What am I signing? So I wrote peace petition on the top of it. She told me afterwards she was afraid not to sign my peace petition. I must have had one mad woman on her doorstep, you know. And then I was asked I went home and I called the Irish News, and so it was splashed all across the papers the next day, and then I got a call to go on.
Your headline.
The headline, Women of Anderson's Town Demand Peace.
Right.
And so then I got a call to go on TV, and I went on and I asked the women of Ireland and England and Scotland and Wales that if they felt like I did about this whole situation, would they join me in a rally the following Saturday right at the spot the children were killed.
Mm-hmm.
And after I did that, I thought, Mother of God, what have I done? I mean, it just, you know, nobody might turn up, you know. What am I going to? I don't care. I'm going to go.
You're going to do it.
And then I come from a big family. My mother came from a family of 12, so I have lots of relatives. And my cousin Frances, who's very close, she and I are very close. I called her and she said, oh, I'll be there with my 5 children.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so if I call around the family, maybe there'll be a few turn up. People talk about witnessing miracles. Well, I did. I witnessed one because I didn't know what the women were doing. They'd hired buses. The Protestant women had hired buses. And the Catholic women had hired buses from all over Northern Ireland, converging on Belfast.
And that's significant because are they supposed to be
women
opposed enemies?
Women who had never met, never spoken, because one side was Catholic, one side was Protestant. And the buses rolled up this way, the Catholic women, and the Protestant women came this way. There was not a word spoken by those women. They just ran into each other's arms. And the tears were just... I definitely witnessed a miracle because there was a Texaco station, gas station on the roof of that with gunmen. I said, oh, please, God, don't let me get anybody killed. But those women were bound and determined that they were going to change what was happening in Northern Ireland. And they did.